All right, we'll go ahead and kick it off, Steve. People will probably still be joining in. That's okay. I'm Brandon Herr, guys, with IP Security Reps. Some of you guys, this is not your first time on an IPSR webinar, so thank you for coming back to us. We certainly appreciate it. We try to do these to give some resources, right? Bring a manufacturer in and educate you on some of the products that we represent. Today, we've got Steve Bardocz with Savance Workplace, and we're going to be going over the emergency mustering solution. I did want to mention that last week, Steve talked about the just the intro to visitor management. It was a really good presentation. Again, a lot of you were on it, but if you didn't get to see it, we'll make sure to follow up with everybody. We're saving everything, posting everything to our YouTube channel. If you just type in IP Security Reps into YouTube, you'll find our channel, and you'll find all of the links from not just Savance, but every manufacturer video that we've ever posted. So it's a good place to kind of find some information. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Steve, who is the owner, founder of Savance Workplace, and Steve's going to be covering the emergency mustering solution today. So I'll kick it over to you, Steve, and stop sharing my screen.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate everybody joining. Let me just get the share my screen out of the way and make sure everybody can see a web page, and that we're good to go from that front. All good, Brandon?
Yep, looks good.
Awesome. So my plan is to, start high level, just in case you didn't attend the last meeting, and just kind of give you guys a little bit of insight to who Savance is, if you haven't heard of us, what we do at a high level. And then, just like Brandon said, we're really going to focus on emergency mustering and how you, as one of our partners and IPSR's partner, can open up some opportunities, kind of give that level 2 above access control to reach the next tier. Savance, we've been around for a little while, a little over 25 years. We focus on safety, security, and accountability. We have a few well-known brands under our belt. We tend to cater to different organizations across multiple tiers when it comes to industries, but we also are very comfortable in the enterprise realm when it comes to different solutions. When you look at us as a whole, we try to outline a few of the common solutions that we offer. And last week, we had focused on the visitor management piece. And this week, we're going to be focusing on the emergency mustering piece. However, the two can work hand in hand, because obviously when we talk about emergency preparedness, it's important to account for visitors and contractors, as well as they might make up the body of people that you know the least about and may not be doing a great job of understanding who's in your building and so forth. The other thing that we offer is mass notification, and that also ties nicely with emergency mustering, where we're going to talk a little bit about that, on how our tool can basically, when you look under the hood, we're going to really understand who's in the building. And because of that, because we know which staff are in the building, which visitors are in the building, which contractors are in the building, we can leverage that to drive mass notification via text and email, and also allow kind of a two-way communications piece. And then we also get into just general status tracking: who's in the building, who's on lunch, who's on break, who's working from home today, and so forth. And those can be then pushed up to status boards, as well as be leveraged to drive time and attendance, which is catering to the HR side of things. Whereas when you look at mustering and mass notification, your biggest target for this is probably a little different than you've done in the past. Your target for this solution is your safety people. Their title is usually HSE coordinator, something of that nature, health and safety. Sometimes facilities and security, sometimes IT, but usually the motivating factor is safety. And it's often driven by that department and that budget. So remember, you're also tapping into a different budget with this, which provides you with potentially a little more funds to work with. And also the motivation behind this solution is life safety. And so you are often higher motivated on these projects to maybe implement indoor readers that can detect when people are leaving and so forth. So that's kind of a high level, a good stopping point to kind of, Brandon, if you want to talk about how we handle questions, and then I'll shift gears and really dive into the mustering.
Yeah, perfect. So the way we did last time worked very well. Is we'll just run through the presentation, and then kind of at the end, we'll go through questions. But as you guys get questions, go ahead and type them into the chat. Steve and I will respond to them at the end. I'm going to be taking notes, and if I have any questions that I maybe thought would be a great idea to go down that path, I'll write them down and I'll type them in as well, Steve.
Perfect. Sounds good. So with that mustering, really ours is based off of a tablet, right? So like, our concept is to provide a mobile tablet with different types of solutions for reading that information. And it's driven off of a reliable muster or a reliable roster of who's actually on site. And I kind of like to flip gears and show this slideshow only because it kind of animates how our system works. So basically, again, we kind of overviewed this about us based in the United States, and we're actually in this region as well, where I know many of you are. We're headquartered in Michigan. Kind of, again, overviews on what we do overall. But this slide shows kind of how we collect information. And so we're pulling information from various access control systems. So say Cantech or Genetech or whatever it might be, we're pulling in badge events. We can activate credentials as we talked about with visitor management. We can synchronize people, your staff, your team members, any credential holder, we can pull that information. At the same token, we can pull in identity directory information. So usually your Microsoft directory of some sort is pulling into this as well. We can import spreadsheets if you've got cell phone numbers and different things like that. But we become that hub, okay? And now that then is going to flow to these muster tablets. So basically, from the integration with access control, a badge swipe will actually start checking people in automatically and allowing us to know where they use that badge. We've got kind of a mapping technology that lets us decide, okay, this reader means that you're at this location and we're going to give it this name. That's a logical name that can help make sense so you know where that person is and where they last used their badge. Now, from that, we always have an active roster. That active roster can be pulled up in a browser, on a phone, on different devices. And so what we're doing with that active roster is actually synchronizing it to n number of muster tablets. And so these tablets are usually in an ideal location, like at an exit point. Some people opt to even put them out in a parking lot in outdoor cases or different solutions like that. That's where we really work with the integrator to find kind of the best solution as far as hardware goes. But ultimately, we're running a tablet. Our default tablet is a Microsoft Surface in a ruggedized case, okay? And that case is basically built with a reader. And the reader we use is an RFIDs reader that is a multi-frequency style reader. So we can read almost every style badge. And even if we can't read the badge, we have a little chip that we can embed inside of a small mullion reader. That's how we, for example, read the Cantech XSF cards and basically plug it in USB. So ultimately, these tablets are synchronizing, right? We know all the credential holders. We know all the people who are supposed to be on site. Then if you have multiple tablets, multiple muster points, connectivity between those tablets will stay connected as well, as long as the tablet can kind of connect to the cloud or connect to the on-prem, because we support both. So ultimately, you've got an active roster that's showing up on all these tablets. And because it works in a synchronized state, they can even work offline. So if you have a real emergency where the server's down or the network is down or power is out, because they're tablet based and because they cache and because they have the most active roster at any given point, they're designed to be used in an emergency purpose. So a normal Tuesday, everything's running great. You've got a synchronized list. It's set up to say, hey, I'm only going to try to muster for people at this location, third floor, or in the manufacturing building, or whatever it might be. And you're going to have a chunk of people that you have to muster for. Okay. Now, we have a solution where we are monitoring these tablets. So that way, if they go offline for whatever reason, say it's a normal Tuesday and somebody tripped on the power cord and, 10 hours later, this thing dies on you. Well, the worst thing you want is to assume that you've got this great mustering system ready to go, and it's not really ready when an emergency hits. So one of the things we do is proactively monitor these tablets. So if it loses connectivity, loses power, it'll actually proactively alert you and say, hey, this muster tablet is down for whatever reason. You need to go, see what's wrong. So that keeps the system online and reliable. Then, of course, when an emergency actually hits, remember, we have that mass notification feature that just comes included with our product. And so you can set up pre-canned messages to pre-can people based on their location and their status location. So who's checked in and who's checked into this particular location. And now you can have a pre-canned message ready to go. Hey, this is a real emergency. Please evacuate the building and go to the closest muster assembly point. If you're not in the building, just respond with O or for out. So now we can do this two-way communication where if you do need help, you can reply with those details. And that information is either going to remove you from the muster tablet, assuming it's connected, or it can update that information back to the dashboard or back to the tablet with where you are and what's going on and why you can't make it to your muster point. So it allows for two-way communications as well as information to flow back. For instances where you're going to implement this mustering solution, but maybe they're not prepared to put out readers. They just want to have a system better than paper. And so by implementing the mass notification and the two-way communication, you can make it even that much better. Okay. Now, when you go to these muster tablets, you have the option to muster in a variety of ways. The most common way is right here, top middle. Use your badge. Walk up to the muster tablet, and it's just simply beep, 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 beep. People are either turning green or they're falling off the list. The other option is you can touch the name, and at that point, just click present. You can also use a barcode where the barcode can be, let's say, printed on the visitor name tag, or it could be on a contractor's helmet. We've even had like mining where they put it on every employee's helmet and they're using a barcode to be identified instead of a badge. So a lot of different variety of reasons, but the barcode can be built into the tablet case like you see it here, or we can leverage the camera, or it can be an external Bluetooth barcode scanner, but there's a lot of different options for us to read the barcode, okay? We can also support mobile credentials, either a mobile QR code, a mobile credential with the access control system, and so forth. So that's an option as well. We also support facial recognition. So we create kind of a picture-in-a-picture on the device to either use the camera to read a barcode or to read facial. And so again, it makes it just that much quicker. People don't have to have their credential. You face the camera at a group of people and it can select or identify multiple people all at the same time. And so a very nice, smooth process with that. And then SMS updates as well. Remember how we have that kind of two-way communications as part of that. So we can leverage that to do mustering or notify somebody that, hey, I'm not even here anymore. Okay. So picture emergency hits. I send out that mass notification. People walk up to their muster assembly point. You have assigned muster takers that grab that tablet, and then folks are just walking up and being identified, typically with just their badge. When that happens, depending on this toggle button, they're either just falling off the list or they're turning green. And obviously your goal is to get that entire screen to either be empty or to turn fully green. So this is kind of simulating what's happening throughout this process to where maybe you get down to one person who's missing. And now that one person, if you select on them, you've got name, their last location that they're used their badge. You can click to call if they're a contractor, you know their organization, you know their department, and so forth. And you can simply hit present and be good to go. If maybe they just forgot their badge, they walk up to the site and they forgot their badge, that's an option too. So again, your goal is basically to, you can use that touchscreen as an alternative option as well. So now you get a full muster, boom, you're good to go. Now, what's cool is that because of the way that we're handling that, now you have a full audit trail of what's happened. So you now know, hey, what time did I start that muster? What time was that muster completed? And then who came to my muster point last? So now you can get a good understanding from a continuous improvement standpoint, benchmarking of what you've done in the past and continuous improvement to say, hey, we want to be able to muster everyone in 10 minutes because that's the standard we're going to push for. And now if you don't meet those, you can find out, well, why didn't I? Was it because I need more muster points? Was it because there's these two employees that tend to not take our emergencies seriously? What do I need to do to improve my overall emergency preparedness plan? We've got a couple really good case studies that we've done with mustering that I'll pull open in a minute. But one of my favorite quotes came from Transocean, which is a large drilling. They operate these vessels out in large bodies of water, like the like offshore, right off of like the Gulf of America. And you're actually take like a manufacturing facility and put it out in the middle of the water. And that's what they have, 200 plus staff and contractors out there, high risk environment and so forth. And so they drill their employees once a week on Sunday, and then they'll do a surprise drill somewhere through that. So they really put our system to the test. And out of their case study, one of the quotes was from a captain, and he said his relief and I have both had emergency musters since the installation of the system. On both occasions, we had musters in under 10 minutes. One of the emergencies took place at 0200 in the morning, involved significant emergency response and the confusion that comes with it. Still, muster was completed in about 8 minutes. If you would have told me this before the installation of the muster system, I would have thought you were lying. So it just kind of shows, like, their process used to be that they would have a count system. So they would do head counts at particular muster points, telephone them in, and then a quote unquote radio operator would literally go through and try to sum up those totals and then compare that to what they call their POB, their persons on board. And so we switched them to have multiple muster points, which were essentially tablets running our software with badge readers. They wear wristbands. So they go to their muster assembly points. They've got really nice displays that can show where people are mustered and how many people are mustered. And so it just changed the game for them, right? Like if they're missing somebody, now they know exactly who they're missing, whereas they would have to fall back if their number wasn't accurate. They then start phoning in names of who actually has mustered. So it's just kind of riddled with problems. And if you start talking to a safety person, and I encourage you guys to do this when you're out in the field, and just ask, hey, what's your emergency preparedness plan like? How do you guys handle your evacuations? That one single question will almost for sure identify problems. Even if the solution is, I print a report from my access control system. Well, how accurate is that, right? Like you're solely basing everything on your access control system, not only tracking who is there, but then also being available to print a report and take that report out to your muster assembly points. And then how do you account for people? Are you checking them off? How are you coordinating between multiple muster points? You know, if you really start drilling down into that, you're probably going to find gaps that they'll quickly admit and probably be excited to hear that there's some way to do it better when you bring technology to the equation. Okay. So I definitely encourage you to do that. When you also think about like you get the safety person involved, you also can drive the demand for visitor management, because once the safety person's involved and they realize that there's a better way to account for people, and maybe they tell you how past drills have gone, and you talk about how you can help them and leverage their access control system while still giving them a tool to better account for people. Now, then the question becomes, well, how am I going to manage my visitors and contractors? I want them into my mustering system. So then that can become the driving factor for visitor management as well. I think I heard a beep, so I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions so far on where we're at right now. Brandon, was there a question by chance that you want to read off, and I'll see if I can address
Yeah, so
it.
Paul has a question. Can you pull the report from the access control system? For example, would the who's in report from Galaxy populate your mustering report?
Yes. So basically, we take it a step further. What we actually do is we're kind of pulling the report all the time. And so what our system does is monitor door events specifically. So what we will do is inside of our software, we'll set up and essentially map an access control integration where we'll tie in any of the supported systems, including say Galaxy, for example. And so once we create an integration, they become an active integration. And though you can have multiple integrations enabled at the same time within the same organization. Once that integration is set up, then we'll start synchronizing doors. And doors are essentially readers. And so each reader then maps to a configurable location that we set up. And it's a logical location. So it could be like a building, it could be a building / area, and so forth. And so instead of relying specifically on Galaxy's muster report, we're using door events to map where people are at in real time. And that creates a filterable, more dynamic list of who's on site. And so what's cool with that is we can say, hey, show me everybody who's currently at a particular status location. So show me everybody who's in Michigan, for example. And that'll automatically filter out. And so now you can have more of a real-time list associated with this, where you can look for people who are in a particular location. And so that's now driven based off of solely those badge swipes. But it's not just limited to that, because we have a visitor management system feeding people as well. And because we also support multiple tools, not just access control, people can use an iOS app, people can use an Android app, people can use a touchscreen kiosk to say that they're on site, so they can tap in and say they're in the office. They can use, with our iOS app and our Android app, they can use what's called geofencing. So as they come into a range, that can sign them in. We can use a camera system where we can feed camera into an AI feed that can identify the people automatically and check them in when a camera picks them up. And we can even coordinate that with RTLS systems to identify where people are and so forth. And that, all of that is feeding into an active muster report. And then the muster reports are feeding over to tablets, and they're kind of dynamic muster reports in a way. So you don't have to run it from Galaxy anymore. We become the mustering solution. Okay. So hopefully that kind of addresses that question, where we are sort of running the Galaxy muster report, but indirectly that information is driven over to our system, and then other sources can feed in to drive that rather than just badge swipes. Badge swipes just become one method for us to get an active roster. Okay. So building on that, as we talk about different industries and such and different demand, remember, visitor management can be a motivating factor from the safety person who says, hey, I need a better system. That in turn can drive our whole visitor management that we talked about with a kiosk or a tablet or desktop stand, QR code, and so forth. And that alone, once you get into mustering and you realize that there's a better way to do mustering, now that team pulls in other folks to say, hey, we need mustering. And now because we want mustering, we want a visitor management. We want to add some some readers on the inside of the door so we can let the system know that we're leaving and so forth. So it can open up new opportunities for you at existing clients, or it could be the driving factor for a whole access control upgrade that starts with the safety person. Okay. Also keep in mind, when we look at mustering, the part that is important to understand is that that same person who's deciding on how do we handle an emergency preparedness plan also cares about my safety conformance. So they want people to watch their safety video. They want contractors to agree to follow the safety terms within their organization. They may also want folks to take a safety quiz before they, enter certain areas or drive a truck onto the premises or so forth. So again, that same person who's going to be caring a lot about mustering also may be a driving factor for visitor management as well, especially if you position as contractor management rather than just visitor management, because again, that person is concerned about making sure that they're adhering to the standards that they set forth. And because our visitor management can improve on contractor conformance, now we're making them watch a safety video, only doing it every six months, having them sign an NDA that also includes that they'll follow safety rules and so forth. So these things from a contractor conformance come into play with visitor management as well, which again, kind of pair up with the mustering and kind of pair up with the mass notification. So collectively, the solution becomes extremely powerful and now motivated from a safety standpoint rather than just a nice to have facilities improvement or security improvement. Okay. Now, the other thing to note when we look at mustering, some objections that come into play is, well, we don't have people badge out. That's not really something that we want to do. Maybe for culture purposes, Maybe just they don't want to spend the money, or they don't think people will conform with it. And so in order to handle that objection, we kind of look at it as mustering as kind of a good, better, best. And good to us is that right now they're probably doing it on paper. And I would consider that less than good, right? We talk about all the problems that can have. Is the server available if you're pulling it from the access control system? Do staff have a proper process in place to quickly account for people and so forth? So kind of what we consider good is at least taking that information and using a mustering tablet, because now you can quickly account for people, and anybody missing, it's much quicker to use mass notification and other methods to validate that they're no longer on site. So kind of the better is now you start tying in access control to drive that decision. So now at least your roster of who you're looking for is a little more accurate. So good is that you just put in a muster system. You're not integrated with access control. You're just trying to muster for any employee that may or may not be there. And that's better than probably what they're doing today. Some people have take advantage of muster reports from the access control system. That is maybe a little bit better than a pure paper process. But now you go to better, which is you now are leveraging access control, but you're using our mustering system. So now that's even better than if you just are simply relying on paper, or relying on a pure, I'm going to try to muster everyone. And then the best, in our opinion, is when you add outreaders. And so now you know for sure that people are there and when people have left, and that roster is about as accurate as it can get. And so we consider that kind of the best practice. And of course, there's even better. Better is we have camera, we have RTLS, camera with facial recognition, and we can get location, and we implement more tools to have better insight to where people are. We've integrated the mass notification part to our emergency preparedness plan and so forth. And so what's important to us here is that, you know, we as integrators, I think it's our job to educate people that there's a better way to handle emergency preparedness than they might be aware of today. And then, of course, to guide them through what process is going to fit in their budget. Do outreaders make sense? Do we want to try to do tablets with badge readers? Do we want to use facial recognition? What sort of technology are we going to pull together? And that's where we come into play with you guys, right? Designing a system that's going to be easy to support, easy to use, available in the cloud or the on-prem, and then ties in with their existing access control system, or gives us an opportunity to upgrade their access control system, either to a new cloud-based system, maybe more readers, maybe it's the driving factor for visitor management, and so forth. Okay. The other thing I'll mention is it often becomes a driving factor for status boards as well. So sometimes, our status boards are basically like picture large screen status boards. So a big monitor up on the wall. Remember how I had mentioned the Transocean case study? They've got multiple muster points. Some are tablet based, where there are tablets that are in fixed locations. Some are mobile tablets, and some they're just using our interface without tablets, just opening it through a browser and identifying where people are. But you can see they're using these muster display boards in key areas that they consider kind of more of a command center to view and make decisions. So in their high risk environment situation, they might have an engine fire, and based on their muster, that decides how they handle that particular incident. So first they need to know, who's safe in which area. And then based on that, they can decide if everybody's accounted for and nobody's in a certain area, they can deploy CO2, which if people were there, they would die because of the CO2. But because they know everybody's accounted for, everybody's safe, and nobody's in that area, they can then contain that particular fire and then kind of save the day in the way. So again, it becomes important for command center purposes to see where people are and who's mustered into what location. And then in their situation, they start moving people to lifeboats. And so then they can, in an abandoned ship situation, so they can kind of monitor that situation as well. So we do some really cool solutions like this with custom branded status board displays. And these can be a driving factor for mustering purposes as well. And so I'll show you a couple examples of that where this just shows who's in, for example. We'll also kind of do hybrid display boards like this one, where it shows who's in which building. They've got 3 different buildings, a main, a shop, and an engineering. And based on badge swipes, that's basically governing how this is going to look and display. And they're also mixing in their visitors into there as well. That again is showing you how many visitors and staff are on the roster and active from a quick visual basis as well. So we've done some very cool implementations. Like this one is for another similar setup where they've got staff and visitors and where they last used their badge, at which door, how many staff, and so forth. So you can kind of get an idea of just the different varieties. This is a mining implementation where they've got 2 different mines. Some are visitors, some are staff, and then they're totaling that up as well. So again, in addition to the muster tablets, some clients will opt for a muster display in a way that just gives them a snapshot of who's in, who's out, and which ones they need to account for. And we've done this in a variety of different ways on these status boards. But a good spot to look is if you just, straight from our website, go into our products, and then there's a little learn more on the customization, and you can click on status boards here and see all of those different examples that we've done. Okay. And most of what I'm showing you, other than this particular presentation, is straight off of our website. And that's an important thing to note. I kind of went over this a little bit in the last webinar that we did, but you always have access to this. And one of the other powerful pieces is the partner spot, where you can come in here and read over different things. So an example might be case studies. So if you wanted to kind of take a look at different case studies, in particular, maybe you were calling on a mining facility. So you might open up and try to find a case study that's going to match up to what we're doing and present that to the client, or just better understand who they sold to, why they were interested, and so forth. So this happened to be that mine operations manager who had a couple quotes in here. You can see before they were using, kind of a magnetic style board. Seeing something like this says, hey, we can digitalize that with Savance. And then, of course, that ended up where this became the display that they used in replacing that, the one I already showed you. So again, mining, manufacturing is another great implementation for us. So you can take a look at some of those. Umicore is a good example where they're dual purposing a tablet, where the tablets kind of can be used both as a muster tablet as well as a visitor check-in station. So it kind of dual purposes. Staff check in that way as well. So staff, visitors, contractors are all using that same tablet, but that tablet is also the muster station that becomes the tablet that they use out at their muster location. They also opted for a status board. So they're using this to both know when people are on vacation, who's in the office, who's out, who's on sick leave or whatever it might be. So again, a really good example of how you can pull these up and kind of take a look and see some good examples out there. Another good implementation that is definitely great for mustering is this Messer. They actually implemented a pretty cool setup that we're pretty proud of. They tied in with their industrial control system, their PLC on their plant floor. And so they've got industrial operations that are occurring that's sending us relay messages through a web relay that we support. And that communicates to our muster tablets to tell the system. So during a muster, we can do a couple things. One, if this system detects a gas leak, it sends us a relay, and then that tells us to send a mass notification. And depending on where that gas leak is picked up, that's telling certain muster stations you can't be used, and it kind of locks them out and tells them to go to a different muster station. So they've got 4 indoor muster stations and they've got outdoor muster stations, and this is integrated and communicating with Cantech at all times. And then they're implemented visitor management with that as well, with a status board display. So kind of a real nice clean setup that, again, I think if you read these over, it does a really great job of just kind of explaining how they utilize the system and so forth, and can give you a good idea of what's available. And you can see that they've got team leads that are responsible for different teams, and they're identifying who's on site based on that information, based on their badge swipes. Okay. So again, real nice. The other thing to mention that I really didn't bring up in this meeting, but all of our visitor management stations are customized. So you can see here, like they've got their custom decal, custom welcome screens, custom inner screens. So when we do visitor management, it's not just like a basic walk up and it looks kind of like every other system that you've ever seen. It's going to look like they created their own visitor management station. And so for nicer organizations, we actually do the design as part of the deployment, and we'll work with their marketing team to bring that to life and get their feedback, get their approval, and so forth. And then our implementation team will bring that to live. So keep in mind, we've got really good case studies. We've also got really good videos, and particularly on mustering, we've got a couple really good videos. This is a nice overview video that just gives a high level on our mustering. And again, that was found from going to resources and then going to partner resources, then clicking on videos. And so we've got a nice mustering video. We also have the Transocean case study right here. And then this is a really cool one where it kind of shows the before and after for Transocean, where we happened to be on site and captured some video of what they were doing before they had our system. And the muster took like, I want to say like 27 minutes or something. And so we captured like the confusion, and I think it resonates if you share this with somebody, you know, especially safety personnel. They'll identify like, hey, we're probably worse than they are. So if they're doing a drill and it took them 27 minutes, I can't imagine we've got to take much longer than that, right? So good to share some of these. As you have client opportunities and as you get deeper in the mix. We also have good tools where if you have product catalogs, sell sheets, and so forth. We also have a new partner info sheet, and this is good to share internally with your team because it goes over the solutions that we offer, and then it also goes over how to identify opportunities in the field. You know, that manual evacuation checklist or paper rosters is obviously the key aspect that we're looking for here. Facilities with compliance and audit concerns. So you're gonna, use this as a tool to share internally with your team to just educate them on Savance. We also have this partner flyer that talks about no certifications, no annual commitments, no minimum order with us. So we encourage you to sign up as a partner with us if you haven't already. That just enables us to work together and give you pricing. We don't publish pricing, and we also protect you with very good margins as well. And so we let you decide what do you want to charge based on your customer relationship, the value proposition, and so forth. And then we give you full support. And so part of that full support is what we call that white glove experience, where we really take you through a kickoff call. The implementation team gets assigned. We do a deployment ticket. So even if it's, of course, no training, you've never done this before, you don't know much about mustering, you just kind of have an idea of what it's used for. That's where we come into play, right? Pre-sales, you've got Brandon's team and Savance's team to really help you understand what that client, how do we approach that client? When we do our first call with that client, how are we going to run that call? Who are we going to be meeting with? What pain points have been brought to the table? What relationship level do we have with those clients? And so forth. Is it a brand new opportunity that we've never sold anything to? Or is this one of my best customers and I'm going to be meeting with Tom and here are his personality quirks? So we'll kind of understand that, really help you out in the sales cycle, put together, you saw those diagrams that I showed, like for Messer, that kind of diagrammed out how things will flow and so forth. Depending on the scope of the project, we're happy to put that sort of level of detail together during the sales cycle. It helps us understand what the customer's proposed design is going to be. And so that helps us put together a bill of materials, which ultimately helps us quote it out with you. And then it builds a better case to present that to the client as well. But then finally, when it comes time to deploy, of course, we're going to help you through that whole process. And then lastly, the last thing I want to cover is just generally how pricing works. Okay. So just so you can get an idea of what a system might cost and whether it might be affordable for some of your customers and how might you make money on this deal. So first of all, it's recurring revenue, right? Everybody loves that. So we sell a solution that's going to be sticky, right? They're going to bake it into their process. It's hard to replace. You also lock in the access control system with another layer that makes it harder to rip and replace. You as an integrator get integrated into their operations a little deeper because now you're in their emergency preparedness plan. If you get visitor management, you're now in their daily operations. You might be in their conformance with some of their certifications like ITAR or CMMC. So you get deeper, right? And so part of that recurring revenue. Okay, so we'll talk about how that recurring revenue breaks down. Hardware is fixed costs. You supply the hardware that you can buy from us, or you can go source it and we'll coach you through selecting hardware direct, or the client can supply hardware. So some IT organizations within a company are very strict. They want their build, they want their hardware. That's fine as well. So you got flexibility, but in the end, hardware is going to be a bill of material from us, a bill of material from you, or the customer is going to supply, and they're going to own that. Okay. Then there's going to be the aspect of software. And software, we bundle it with service, right? So we're basically going to give them a year of support and services associated with that particular software, and they can buy up to 6 years. And if they get additional years, you get discounts. And so mustering is built where you buy the number of people that you have to license for staff in brackets of 50. So 50, 100, 150. Once you get up to 250, we start going to 500, 750, 1,000, and so forth. And so there's a price point. Let's just round numbers. let's say it's roughly 50 staff or 150, 100, you might pay $1,000 or $2,000 for that a year based on the number of staff. Now, so there's a price point, that you'll pay roughly per year per person. Then it's the number of muster stations. So do I have one muster station? Do I have two, or do I have 7? And of course, if you have multiple locations, you might have 2 muster tablets at this location and 1 at this location. And so we'll license those, and those are a little more than $1,000 a piece a year as well. And so then you piece that together, you end up with maybe the tablet hardware. We quote out, let's say, 5 hours of consulting for startup and training. And then you quote your startup and training, as well as if there's hardware installed, maybe you have to run Cat5 or run wireless. Maybe you've got some door readers to install and so forth. Then if you're integrating with access control, we have an annual fee that's right around $1,600 a year just for the access control system. So if you have one access control system, it covers all locations. So let's say the example might be Cantech. We tie in with Cantech. We have to get the eCore Connect because some access control systems pay for us to have access to their system. So there's a little adder there, but we'll build that in. But let's say in general, one location, rough numbers, maybe 5 to 10K for a muster setup. So we build that out, and then the recurring might be 2,500, maybe $5,000, depending upon what we sold them, how many tablets, what accessories, and do they have access control integration and so forth. And then again, it just scales up to however many muster tablets you have, or if you have visitor management, you've got status boards. All that's just increasing your recurring revenue and providing more value and deeper roots within the client. Okay. So we got about 6 or 7 minutes here left to open it up for questions. Anybody want to pose any questions or anything that I can cover and explain?
Yeah. Hey, Steve, thank you again for giving this presentation. Great overview on mustering in general. I think the first thing that I wrote down was kind of like, what is the mustering solution? I think you did a great job, but you and I have presented to customers where, they talk about that experience of, when you ask, what do you do in the case of emergency? And you hear them just kind of, well, we use a clipboard. And I think we were talking to one gentleman who had just had an incident the previous week, and he said it was pure chaos with the clipboard, trying to make sure everybody was accounted for. So great explanation of mustering. I kind of wrote down some questions. When you were talking about access control and the difference, obviously we understand the flexibility of the tablets and the synchronization and getting a more refined list. But one of the things that access control can do is automate emails. So like in the event of a muster, can Savance system send out an email saying, hey, there's a muster event going on. Maybe it's to a group of administrators, and then update like, hey, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, email you that list of who has signed in, who's still not accounted for, et cetera. So you have some kind of automation going on.
100%. Not only do you have that live feed that you can pull open on a tablet or a mobile or any browser enabled device to see what's going on with that muster. Of course, we can also send out those mass notifications that can be pre-canned, ready to go, and automated. Now, the timing wise, like in, 3 minutes into the drill, 5 minutes into the drill, 7 minutes into the drill, that would be something we could potentially customize. We don't do that right out of the box. I really like the idea. The only thing that you would be able to do is during the muster, right out of the box, you can initiate additional mass notifications during the process with updates that can go out. It just wouldn't be as automated. To automate it, we would have to put in scripting on our end, which we support scripting that can happen on a automated process, including leveraging our existing mass notification profiles. So possible it would just require some hours, but out of the box, you can use all of our different interfaces to pull open the dashboard, as well as initiate that mass notification, or have it stem from an automatic event, like an event from the access control system, or an event that came from, like you saw with the life safety system with Messer.
Awesome. You mentioned the face recognition as a way to sign people in. Is that a third-party application, or is it managed through Savance? I assume there's a database that has to be kind of groomed.
Yes. Yeah. So the way that we support two different facial recognition engines today. One is Safer, and a second is CyberLink. And both of those, the CyberLink is the only one that works, in my opinion, best on mustering because it works in an offline state. The Safer has to be connected. It can't run all of its analysis locally. And so great for some systems, but a little weak in the mustering side. And that those are third party. There's a small adder per device that you activate our facial for. And then there is some work involved, like in visitor management, we would want to opt into facial recognition. For staff, there's a one-time registration process where either we upload a picture or take a live photo of them using the muster tablet as part of the registration process.
Very good. And you answered all my other questions. So that's all I had.
Awesome,
Anybody
man.
else have anything in the chat?
I do want to mention one more thing too, Brandon, that comes into play. You know, we're a little over 50 employees, been around for 25 years. So the other thing that you get with us is the ability to really design and architect solutions, right? So it's not just like Brandon had mentioned, oh, you know, could it do this? We want you to bring those to us. A, that's how our product has evolved. B, because our product is so configurable, oftentimes we have the ability to do that, especially with our API and some of the no-code solutions that are out there today, like Zapier and so forth. And we have our own engine that can do jobs routinely. So we can almost do most things without having to, you know, develop changes to our code, just with the extendability of our existing system. And we love that part. The other thing to keep in mind is just like the white glove service level, you know, that's after purchasing as well. And it rolls all the way back up to the end user. So if you have a scenario where they're having a problem with something or technical questions, and you know that you'll never be the expert at mustering, you just know enough to pull us in and bundle it and sell it, that's okay. That's perfectly normal. You can always say, hey, call the Savance guys and we'll honor your relationship. We're an extension of you. We obviously never try to go around you. We know that you have to be part of the mix and we won't go direct. So you can always, hey, give Savance a call and see if they can help you out with that. And we can take those calls off of your queue and manage those directly. So you can decide, hey, I want to handle every single one and I want to try to become the expert. Or you can have it be more of a passive income style where I'm going to pull Savance in, they'll be my experts, together we'll be a team, and any support I'll just hand right over to them. You choose whatever level of relationship that you want. Okay.
Awesome. And just a reminder to everyone, we thank you again for joining us on this kind of 2-week journey with Savance and covering visitor management, covering mustering. We are here to help you guys. We're going to be posting these videos to our YouTube channel, sharing that, sending it out as an email as well. So if you missed it, or if you think you want to, send it to another rep in the office, maybe somebody who couldn't make it, whatever it is, we'll get you that information. We are going to be doing the gift card as well. Not live on this, but we will create another meeting, and all of our IPSR folks will be on that, and we'll be doing the gift card. We just have to take the list of registrants. So stay tuned. We will get those gift cards out immediately as soon as we do the drawing. So thank you guys again for doing everything. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you coming on and supporting us at IPSR and our customers in the field.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thank you. We'll see you guys.
Take care.